Okay, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the People's Basics. Today on the program, we are talking to one Brendon Carpenter. And on the show, we're going to be doing what we normally do on our Commoners Corner segments, which is we want to make sure that we are talking to regular people like you all and discussing, what is that fundamental purpose of what government should be doing for its people. So I want to remind you all, we talk to regular folks like you all. So if you are enjoying today's conversation, sign up yourself. It's in the description section down below for you to come and talk about your own form of politics. That being said, let's welcome onto the program, Brendon Carpenter. Brendon, welcome to the People's Basics again, man.
Thanks, John. Hello, commoners.
It's great. Maybe? Oh, we should. You should do that. Like it's a reference to the Nerds for Yang folk out there, and we love them.
So all the way.
we got to figure out our own one that we can have people start saying in here, because I love their compilation that they have at the beginning. But Brendon, it's a pleasure to be able to have you back on the program. So for the folks that don't remember our previous conversations, could you let them know a little bit more about yourself? Where you're from, what you do, and how you politically identify.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was the regional organizer for Arizona during the Andrew Yang presidential campaign. And before that, I have 10 years of experience in community organizing. I do a lot of gig work on the side too, mainly with digital media, copywriting. I'm one of the founding members of the United Utah Party, one of the most successful third parties in recent American history. And I also started the Humanity Forward chapter for Arizona before the chapter program was discontinued, and that wrapped up in February. And I'm living in Phoenix. I'm moving to Long Beach. My fiance got a job there at the hospital. She's a radiologist, and yeah, I'm just looking forward to being involved in politics, making the biggest impact I can.
Yeah, I think that's all that we can all hope for is, we can't all be the forefront leaders. We need, frankly, a lot of followers. Followers are immensely important. I think, frankly, a lot of the times the most important individual is that first follower. It goes from showing someone is maybe crazy and out there with their own thinking that's not being recognized by others and says, maybe that isn't so crazy after all. So, Brendon, I wanted to ask you, in your support in those efforts, what kind of forged your worldview of what you think government should be that led you to supporting someone like Yang, as well as forming a third party like the United Utah Party?
I mean, it's a very long story. I've been fascinated by politics since I was a teenager. I remember in high school, like during lunchtime, I would eat my food real quick. I'd run to the library, and then I would just read Russian history and American history and political philosophy. And I was just such a nerd.
We love the nerds out here.
Oh yeah, we're carrying the American people.
Yes, it's so true.
Yeah.
So then let me. Oh, go ahead. Keep going.
Well, yeah, just to round out the story, I started as an objectivist. I was an Ayn Rand guy, and I served a Mormon mission in Brazil. I saw a lot of poverty. I worked in jungles, villages for 2 years, and it flipped my view of the world. And so when I got back, I got involved in Occupy Wall Street, and since then, left libertarianism has been the only political philosophy that's really been able to describe my values and what I'm about.
So can you tell me a little bit about what those kind of moments were that shifted that perspective? Because I think there is actually a lot more overlap between the left and libertarians than I think a lot give it credit for. I think some make it obvious on the social stuff, but I think philosophically there's this idea of just trying to achieve liberty and freedom for all. And, some more left-leaning individuals also attribute that economically. What were those moments that kind of made you realize that, you needed to embrace more of the left side of libertarianism?
Thanks for that question. Well, that leads me to a really memorable story I share a lot in my community organizing is there was a family that I befriended that were so kind to us outside of Fortaleza, and in this little village. They literally lived in like a single room with a dirt floor and sticks and mud for walls, and had constant leaks, had pests coming in and everything. They had two boys, grandmother, single mom. And this single mom was just a powerhouse, working every day, bringing home money from the factory, feeding her kids. Her mom that she was taking care of was like 80 and blind. And they actually had a little tiny TV and an old like Nintendo. And so I ended up playing with the teenage boy there, video games, as we taught him from the Book of Mormon and everything when I used to be religious. And this guy was smart. The kid was totally smart. He read books. He went to the cyber cafe and like was all over the internet. He wanted to talk politics. And I realized that he had all the capacity of any person I'd met in the West to succeed, but he was stuck in these terrible circumstances of poverty and just so far from the developed world. And so I realized that human capacity, it needs to be freed completely. We haven't actually seen a free market that libertarians claim that we need to get to, that would actually unlock the potential that humans have. And so then I started thinking more about how do we free up that capacity and let people achieve their dreams and make the most productive use of their time here on Earth. And that's what got me going in that direction.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because I do think, frankly, when it comes to libertarians, like the party, not the overall identity group, but the party, I think that's the biggest thing that they miss, is that it is too much of a survival of the fittest mindset when we know we have all of this, frankly, productive capacity that's just being unfulfilled because of poor distribution. So let me ask you more in a broad sense. You support a left libertarian vision, and so that can have a very wide degree of what is the responsibility of government.
That's
the
right.
left side says, we should be doing more economic things. The libertarian side is saying, I'm not so trusting of government itself necessarily. What
Right.
do you think that responsibility of government is, Brendon?
Okay, so I think the best thing for your audience to hear about and to maybe do a little bit of research is to go find the essay. I think it was actually turned into a book as well, by Isaiah Berlin, a British philosopher. It was released in 1952. The title is Two Concepts of Liberty. And so he was the first philosopher in the 20th century that distinguished between negative liberty and positive liberty. So negative liberty is like, you can't infringe on the freedom of others by, say, taking their life or imprisoning them or committing fraud against them, lying against them. That takes away their freedom. So you have negative liberty of things that you can't do. And then there's also the concept of positive liberty, where you actually have to do something in order to free yourself or to live to your full capacity of life. So for example, you need to educate yourself, you need to have food, you need to exercise, you need to practice good mental health. There's a whole list of things that expands your freedom of what you can do in your life. And so using that idea to talk about the role of government should be, in an ideal world, completely focused on just assuring each person has that negative and positive liberty. So government needs to be invested in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, just like the Declaration of Independence declares. I'm a patriot, John. So Declaration of Independence.
We all are here. Frankly, I think that's something that the left can kind of learn a little bit too. Like, there are some good things to like America as a concept and the values. The execution is a little lacking over time, but I think some of the ideals are worthwhile to be proud of. So, Brendon, obviously we're talking about this positive freedom of liberty that's a little bit different than some people kind of traditionally are thinking about this.
Right.
What do you think are some of those, basics that we need to be assuring for people? You mentioned education as one of them, But what do you see as those basic pillars of positive freedom that government should be investing in?
Right. So, universal basic income, obviously, having the basic needs to put food on the table, to literally like just sit back and relax, like for however many days you want until you imagine like the best road forward to improve yourself and all this. You've heard it again and again. Universal basic services fits very neatly into a left libertarian framework. But I'm actually going to accelerate this a little bit to just stir up the pot a little bit.
Okay.
So I'm an incrementalist. So I'm a Biden voter. I'm a Democratic Party member. So this can take a while, but eventually we're going to get to the 300-year anniversary of the American Revolution, and by that point, I do want to see a second American Revolution that was as revolutionary as the first and actually fulfills the Declaration of Independence, which I view has never been fulfilled completely by our government. And so what would need to happen for that is we would need to allow government to actually become a social contract that people choose. So we should establish a government that has exit rights for citizens so that you could exit a country freely and safely, and also live within the borders of a country without being held by all of its rules. And so there would be two different systems of law: the Republic law that assures life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness for everyone, and then and that would be something you would be born into, that every human would have to contribute a little bit to in order to sustain the freedoms of others. And then in this idealistic third republic of the United States, let's call it, there would be nations. We would get rid of states. That's another object that I want to accomplish is right now the states have all the sovereign power in the United States. That was a wrong view of the founders. It should be the American people have the sovereignty. And so people should choose what nations they join. And nations shouldn't be bound by geography or borders or anything like that. Like, there's many Native American First Nations that have their own tribal law. And so that would be the framework to allow, Northern Californians to do what they want to do, Texans to do what they want to do. Mormons even could be a nation. There could be, African American nations, all living beside each other, holding each other accountable to their national law. And then the federal law on top of it just assures that we live in a functional society. So there you go, brother.
I think it's a very interesting concept. You got some fans out there who like the idea. We got Kitty who completely agrees. But, Brendon, I want to clarify, because I think you said two things that I think for some people might seem contradictory a little bit. Just the kind of liking the Democratic Party, appreciating incrementalism, and then also talking about the need for revolution. And so, I'd love for you to kind of say, like, how do you think those things kind of fit together? Like, because it can be tricky for some to kind of envision both being an incrementalist, working within the system, and then also saying, yeah, we should just like completely revolutionize the system and allow people to check out of it if they so want to. Yeah. How do you envision that balance?
It's fun. It always gets to there. Like when I tell people this, they're like, holy shit, wait, what? So what, are you an extremist? Do you need to go to prison? I'm all for following the law. The Constitution is the law of the land. It's what most people support. So we got to work within that system. Nonviolence is much more effective as a method of revolution than violence. So what we've got to do is, from a left libertarian view, we've got to expand people's freedom however we can, and then we trust the people that as they get more freedom for their self and their family, then they will choose to expand even more freedom until we get to that ideal society in the future, which could take decades, right? So what they did right now with the American...
Yeah, you have some time with your target of 2076. You got a bit of time.
There we go. Yeah, but by the time I'm an old man, I can retire, and this is society I want. No, but like, so the American Jobs Act, for example, it's giving people money, it's keeping people in their homes. So that's expanding your freedom. You have more money to survive the pandemic. So that's good. That's something that I can fight for with all my integrity. The For the People Act, campaign finance reform, it gives more power to the people to actually determine their representatives by getting rid of gerrymandering and other things. So that expands my freedom. And the hope is that the more we expand people's freedom in these material and social ways, all the different ways, that they'll choose to continue to expand their own freedom.
So then here's my final question for you before we wrap up. There are a lot of different priorities that we've got to talk about during this episode, from, education to stimulus to the need for democracy reform, that, I think sometimes we don't end up being as concentrated as we need to. Like, where do you think people should be looking to put their advocacy time if they share a common purpose with yourself in trying to establish this level of freedom? What do you think are those first steps to get those that are our leadership kind of aligned with this vision?
As a true left libertarian, I will say that you as the individual, you have the best idea of where you are in life, what your abilities are, what your philosophy is. So it's really up to you to decide how much of an impact so take this all with a grain of salt. But instead of working with the Alexander Hamiltons of the world, or say the Zach Graumans of the world, that they want to direct what the people do in order to win more freedom. I would suggest looking into groups like the Humanity First movement, which I was a co-founder for. We're really pushing a kind of vision for democratically governed grassroots. So I think that would be a great place for someone with these values. And then there's also an organization called Phoenix Congress, or the American Union. And they have a really interesting idea of they want to create a union of swing voters that votes as a block so that they can have the maximum influence on our political system. And I see that as a really effective plan to make change in the short term, and then eventually in the long term for much bigger changes.
Oh, that's very intriguing. And I do kind of like how you were framing that discussion on the Humanity First movement, because, we talk a lot about trickle up economics and trickle down economics. Politics has to have the same exact process for it to work effectively. It's got to come from the bottom on up, not the top on down. So, Brendon, I want to thank you for sharing your perspective with us today. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to share? Or, I like to give all of our guests here at the Commoners Corner the opportunity to turn the tables at the end. Do you have any questions for me as we're wrapping up today's show?
Well, hey, I just appreciate the time to get the message out about left libertarianism. It doesn't get talked about enough. Please look up the Wikipedia article if you're interested, because you'll just find lots of different links and rabbit holes to go down to of different kind of schools of thought. And if you like this stuff, that's really the best place to go to start digging. For you, John, I mean, as an organizer, I'm always interested in organizations that are pushing for advocacy. And, I've been watching you guys. Seems like you've been growing well and all that. Where do you hope that People's Basics will be by 2024 in your ideal world? What would the A+, oh yeah, we the vision.
Yeah, you always got to dream big. So I think by the year 2024, where we want to be is we want to be maturely established in our department of content. We're putting out stuff on a regular basis so that we can properly build up a notion of awareness of what are these basics that everyone should be having. Why are these the individual things that are the best uses of our money compared to how we currently do it? And that we are currently, expanding the conversation beyond just, frankly, in my opinion, the people who already like it. I think a lot of content creators have made this kind of push to just solidify themselves purely on the left. We are trying to take these ideas that are progressive in nature and are embraced primarily by the left and bringing them more to the center. And so we want to try and help bring in a uniting movement that can encompass more than just the left where we currently are today, because we love so many of the folks that are out there that support that. We know you are natural supporters of these causes, but we all know that we need to bring these to more people. And so we want to bring those people in as well. Furthermore, we are hoping technology-wise, we will have our grassroots technology ventures of gamifying the grassroots of text banking and phone banking and organizing completed by that point, so that all the 2024 campaigns can have an easier time of getting volunteers engaged in their campaigns, because it's a more fun process and it rewards volunteers more for doing it. And then finally, what we're hoping is that we've built out more of a polling infrastructure. We're looking to do a lot of crowdsourcing for individual campaigns so that we have more data down ballot of which races we want to target. But beyond that, we also want to be part of the movement that's doing kind of direct marketing to people by saying, hey, if we're asking you in a survey about universal basic income, that means you are now thinking about universal basic income. Whether you said yes or no, you're now at least thinking about the subject, and that is a form of marketing. Yeah. And so at an A+ level, we are hoping to be mainstay pillars in media, technology, and organizing to help push forward the universal basics agenda. And we're hoping we have the connections to really bring forth a wide sweep of candidates. One of the few regrets I have of 2020 is that we got to interview a lot of candidates. We tried to support them, but none of them got through. We've interviewed over 50 candidates in 2020 and zero made it through. In 2024, my hope is we have significantly more than zero getting through.
Those are the costs of joining kind of a more fringe, fun kind of movement, I guess.
Yeah, a little bit. It starts a little slow.
Yeah, Arizona's two endorsed candidates we really supported a lot, Suzanne Hugg and Julie Gunigal. Unfortunately, they just were squeezed out of there. But so I feel your pain, but that vision you got there, John, I think it's a winning combination, and I don't see a lot of organizations like thinking about gamification, outreach, polling in that kind of comprehensive way. So I just got to hand it to you that it seems like a winning trifecta for your strategy there. So I wish you luck.
Well, thank you very much, Brendon. We really appreciate that. And we hope to continue being able to talk with you in the future. Myself, I'm not going to speak for everyone at the network, but I tend to be a little bit more left libertarian myself. So I'm glad we had the opportunity today to be able to share it out there.
Awesome. Me too. Thanks so much.
You're very welcome. Okay, everyone. So that was Brendon Carpenter. We want to thank him so much for coming today to be able to spread his thoughts on grassroots organizing as well as left libertarianism. We want to encourage you all to come on to the program to have these similar conversations yourself. We want to hear from you of what you think the basic role of government is and what we need to be focusing on right now. If you like today's episode, help us out with the algorithm gods. Like it, share it, do all that YouTube stuff. That being said, my friends, I hope you have a great rest of your day out there. We have a lot of great content coming this week, and I want to make sure you all are checking out our social media because we're releasing a big announcement today with the announcement we did on Friday. The Political Madness 2021 tournament is starting today. It'll be starting tonight, and it'll be a tournament with over hundreds of people, political content creators, competing in a tournament to win a Patreon subscriber and $100 in donation. It's going to be a lot of fun just having that competition and celebrating a lot of the great content creators in the political space. So once again, thank you all for tuning in. We hope you have a great day out there, my friends. And as always, we hope you stay basic out there.